Hi, this is Rich Boren, and I'm the owner of Cruiser Services. I'm the U.S. distributor for the Schenker Watermakers, and we're continuing on with our video series of planning your Schenker Watermaker install. We're now on class or video number 6, where we're going to review the mounting of the ERS, the Energy Recovery System, or in Schenker language, the Watermaker group. It consists of the energy recovery pump and the reverse osmosis membrane, kind of all in one package. So we're going to dive in. I have a Zen 30 and a Zen 50 here in front of me. We're going to zoom in on some things, talk about where to mount it, where maybe not to mount it, how to mount it, and go over the details in terms of what you need to touch on a routine basis and how to basically get it to fit in your boat. So we're going to start by talking about some basics. Where can it go? Where can it not go? Well, really, it can almost go anywhere. You have some upper temperature limits of 140 degrees Fahrenheit, but that still lets it get installed in most engine rooms. So I've done plenty of engine room installations because an engine room doesn't really get above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So you're kind of okay to do that. Now, would I lean it up against a big, 800 horsepower Volvo Pinto engine? No, I wouldn't do that. But in an engine space, it's pretty common. I just did a install of a Zen 100 on a azimuth 60 flybridge where we mounted it laying on its side on top of an engine tank in the engine room. So that's a pretty standard location. Now, in terms of the water line, it can go below the water line or above the water line. That's not a problem. So as we talked about in our other videos, the 3 components that have to go below are the T, the raw water strainer, and the feed pump. The pre-filter accumulator group and the energy recovery Watermaker itself, that can go above or below. So you're okay there. Now, in terms of mounting, as you notice in the manual, it can be mounted standing up or laying down flat on its back. The position you can't mount it on is vertical because the horizontal pistons inside want to stay pretty much horizontal. Now, on a boat, when it's rocking around, that's okay. But we don't want it to be tall dimension vertically because then on one stroke, it's always fighting gravity. So it needs to be mounted either standing up or laying down on its back or any angle in between. That's okay as well. So I'm going to now bring the camera over. We're going to zoom in and talk about some of the specifics of the inlet and outlet and what some of these pieces are. What do they do? So let's take a look. Okay, just kind of looking closely here. I'll call this the left side and the right side, just from me standing in front of the unit. So there's no activity, no fittings go in and out of the left side. All of the inlet outlet fittings are going to be over here on what I call the right side, the right manifold end. This fitting up here, which I have a Ziploc bag for the fitting, that'll plug in here. This is your seawater inlet. So this comes from the feed pump going into the energy recovery Watermaker, and the unit will ship with that zip tied here to a bag. This hose barb leaving the top block is your brine discharge. So this is where 90% of the water that flows through is going to leave saltier seawater. That's the brine discharge. The product drinking water is going to come out this port here. So on the right manifold, you have the seawater inlet, the fresh drinking water outlet. Here on the top, you're going to have the brine water reject going overboard. Now let's look here at the top of the unit. This is called the depressurization valve. When this valve is opened, and all it needs to be opened is about that much. When it's open like that, the system cannot build pressure. When it's closed, you're pinching an O-ring inside, and that is letting the unit build pressure. So when do you do this? When you're purging air from the system, like on a filter change or an initial startup. We have a pressure gauge on top. You're not adjusting the pressure. You're just monitoring the pressure here as a guide for how the Watermaker is performing. Now, the other things that have hands-on, this is often confused. Let's talk about this. This is the reset valve over here on the left side of the top block. This is the reset screw. So let's talk about what it does, why it's there, when you need to touch it, when you don't need to touch it. Okay, so what is this reset procedure and this reset valve and screw? Inside this top block is a small rod that's moving back and forth. This is your high pressure top valve. Inside here is a moving rod. Well, if for some reason that rod ever stopped dead in the center, there's no differential pressure on either side to get it moving again. Now, I've never personally seen that happen, but the law of averages say it could happen. On the touchscreen panel, it's monitoring its cycling, so it'll never shut the unit down dead center. But on a manual unit where you just hit the stop button, maybe it does stop dead center and it won't start, it's moving again back and forth. So that's where the reset procedure comes into play. You'll get a system blocked error and then you'll do a reset. Well, if you screw this screw in, it pushes the rod over. Unscrew the screw and then it restarts again. But water isn't compressible. You can't, compress it. So that's what this reset valve is. You normally don't have water flowing out of here. The only time you're opening the reset valve to open it is to vent this little side of the chamber to allow this reset screw to be screwed in so that you can reset the piston, hence the reset valve. You'll then shut it, unscrew the screw, start up the unit again, and off you go cycling. So a lot of folks will, anytime there's a problem, they'll do a reset, which if the unit is cycling back and forth, and you can hear that when it's running, the reset valve's not going to do anything. You're already moving. You don't need a system reset. So that just maybe eliminates a little confusion on what that is. So let's look now at how we mount this unit onto your boat. Okay, so let's look down here at the side. You're going to notice that there's all threads that run through the unit holding it together. You'll notice that on the back of the unit, you have a lock nut and an acorn nut, and on the bottom. So if you're mounting the unit standing up like this, the unit's supplied with these L brackets to mount here and secure the unit down on each side. If you're gonna lay the unit down on its back, we'll show you how that'll work. So you can obviously lay the unit down on its back and mount it laying flat. It makes for a very low profile if you do that. So then you will use these acorn nuts and the mounting brackets instead of the bottom two. So you can mount it either stand or any angle in between will be appropriate. The unit comes with a 90-degree elbow, so you can have your gauge either pointing up or down or pointing in a different direction. That's certainly okay. Again, the only thing you need to touch is a depressurization valve to purge and the reset screw and valve periodically if there's ever a reset needed. That's not something you would do every day. Just to give you a feel, looking at the back of the unit so you can kind of see what's going on here, this top cylinder and the block here, this is the energy recovery pump. That is what's recovering the energy from the brine discharge and helping the unit be so efficient. These two cylinders down here, 1 and 2, this is a Zen 50. These are your pressure vessels. So you have an RO membrane inside each pressure vessel. These second tubes here just allow the flow to reverse directions as the check valves turn. So on a Zen 50, You have two RO membranes, two standard off-the-shelf size 21-inch membranes. If we look over here at a Zen 30, there's just a single pressure vessel. The same exact top block, the same energy recovery pump. It is just not as tall. There's a little height difference from the second pressure vessel. So both of these get mounted the same way. Okay, so one thing to think about in your mounting location, there's no electricity here that generates heat. So this can be laid flat on its back at the bottom of a locker and have soft goods put on top of it, because again, you're only accessing this depressurization valve as an air purging step, which normally between start and stops, you don't have to worry about that. But this is completely electricity free. There's no electricity here that generates heat. The heat and the electricity, the wattage being used by the unit is in the feed pump. So this isn't going to generate heat, and it's all the high density plastic, stainless steel, so you don't have big, corrosion concerns as well. Now, as we looked at the back of this unit at the pressure vessels, I also get the question, hey Rich, how am I going to service this for membranes? Well, the reality is you're probably going to take this unit out of its mounting location into the cockpit, remove one of the end manifolds, membrane slide in and out, put the end manifold back on and remount it. Because you have this width of the Watermaker, the rigid membranes are another 21 inches long. So rarely do people change a membrane in its mounting location, unless you have a big boat with lots of room. But then again, that's only something you're doing every 5, 7, 8 years if you take care of your RO membranes. So I wouldn't choose or not choose a mounting location based on ease of membrane changes, because the reality is pull the unit out into the cockpit at that point when it comes time for membranes, and then you can do some other service and cleaning on the unit while it's out of the boat. We mentioned it earlier, the pressure gauge is something you can visually look at to get an idea of how the unit's operating. There are no adjustments to this pressure gauge that you are going to make. The system, the energy recovery pump, is set to make a 10% recovery rate on most of the Watermakers. So 10 gallons goes in from the feed pump, 9 gallons go overboard out the brine reject, 1 gallon becomes fresh drinking water. The pressure, whether you need 300 PSI or 800 PSI to do that, based on the salinity and temperature of the water, is all handled volumetrically by the energy recovery pump. So the only thing you need to make water on an energy recovery Watermaker is a working feed pump. You don't need any other controls, no pressure regulation. A working feed pump pushing into the energy recovery pump and membrane unit, now you're making water. So in the worst case scenario, if you take a lightning strike and all your electronics become fried, all you got to do is get power to that pump and you're up again making water. On all of the different Schenker Watermaker models, that would be true. How far can this unit be mounted from the other components? Coming out of the Watermaker on the side, we looked at where the product water's coming out. From there, it can go right to your water tank, 15, 20, 30 feet of line. That's okay, that pressure can handle that. On most installs, and what we recommend, is that you leave this black box Watermaker and go to a 3-way valve, whether it's a manual 3-way valve or a solenoid 3-way valve, that you can then check the water, see that it's good, and send it to your water tank. In a later video, we're going to go through all the peripheral connections. We'll review the through hole, the lines leaving the Watermaker, just to make sure we've mentioned that as well. But the Watermaker unit itself is pretty simple. It's just the heaviest piece of the unit. It's the biggest, so you got to figure out where it can go. But someone will call me a lot of times, Rich, I want a Watermaker, but I don't have room for it. Well, what type of boat do you have? Oh, it's a Lagoon 410. Wait a second. We can fit 5 of these units on there. It's just a matter of where would this unit fit, standing up or laying down on its back. And on most boats these days, you can find room for that. And if you can't, give me a shout and we'll talk you through it, because I have a feeling there's some places you haven't thought about. Okay, so the question becomes, how noisy is this thing? Am I going to hear it running? Is it going to be driving me out of my salon or my bunk room? The noise from the Schenker Watermaker it's very quiet, because it's basically the SureFlow feed pump on the Zen 30s and 50s, which is the same sound that a standard galley pump is making when it's running, and it's mounted below the floorboard. The actual energy recovery pumps, you just hear a clicking sound as the unit's cycling back and forth. And here's a video of that real quick for you, so you can see what it looks like and kind of what it sounds like as I'm running one on my test bench. Depressurization valve. So right now we're just venting water through it with the depressurization valve open. So as we close the depressurization valve, the unit will cycle up to pressure. I don't know if you can hear the pumps bear down a little bit as they're working a bit harder. Perfect, 7 bar. So you can have a normal conversation standing next to the unit. It could be under your salon settee, under one of your bunks, and it's not going to drive the people crazy as it's running, because that's the advantage of a energy recovery Schenker Watermaker, is that it can be running in the background quietly and very energy efficiently while you have solar and DC power available. You don't have to run a generator to power these systems. The install kit provides this roll of cushiony kind of vibration dampening gasket. There's a sticky side, you pull off the tape, then that's the side that'll go down to the mounting base. So if you're going to stand it up, you would attach this to the bottom of the ERS, and it would help dampen any sound that could be transmitted as the unit cycles. If you're going to lay it on its back, you would attach this to the back of the unit, and that'll help dampen that clicking vibration sound as the unit cycles. So this is supplied with the unit. You can also use any other type of sound dampening rubber gasket material that you have as well. But Schenker's going to provide you with a piece of this rubberized kind of foam gasket to help deaden the noise a little bit between the cycling ERS and your mounting base. I've had the question, and I've actually done a few installs using this method, because it says in the manual you can't hang the Watermaker on these brackets. It's not designed to do that. But if you want to mount this unit on a bulkhead, I've done several installations like that before, simply fabricate a shelf, set the unit on a shelf so that the bulk of the weight is supported by the fabricated shelf, and then use the stainless steel brackets that it's provided to secure it to that shelf. That way you're not hanging the unit from the brackets, you're letting the weight of the unit be supported by the shelf, and then the mounting brackets are simply firmly attaching it to the shelf. And one final question I'll find cruisers asking me is, Rich, these are straight fittings. The brine outlet, the seawater inlet from the feed pump, the product water, drinking water. I'm limited by my space here, so can I install 90-degree elbows there? Yes. There's no reason these 3 ports bringing water to and from the Watermaker can't have a 90-degree elbow in them. So that's not a problem at all. So in the next Watermaker video, we're going to talk about the remote panels. There's different remote panel choices, so we're going to go ahead and look at each of those 3 style of basic panels, from the basic panel to a mini touch to a full touch. We'll review the features that come with those panels and talk about its mounting location and its operating features.